Welcome to the Becoming Unique podcast, a lifestyle podcast with a focus around wellness, self-care, self-love, and just so much more. Hey, y'all. So before we get this show started today, let's start this show off by taking a deep breath. So, whatever you're doing right now, just settle down. But if you're driving, keep your eyes on the road and pay attention. Just keep your ears open to listen to everything I'm saying. But get settled down in your body for a moment. Even if you're washing dishes, just put everything down and take a deep breath in, inhaling through your nose, and then a deep breath out, exhaling through your mouth. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. We're going to take one more cleansing breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And let's take one more breath, and this is going to be an affirmation breath. Inhale love through your nose and exhale fear through your mouth. Welcome to the breath or breathing episode of Becoming Unique. See, just by me doing those 3 couple of, cleansing breaths, if you notice, the tone of my voice has totally chilled out from when I first started this podcast about 1.5 minutes ago. There's so much power in the breath. It really is. And if you notice, what is the first sign of life when a baby is born? When the baby takes its first breath, that's when the first sign of life. And then what's the last sign of life when a person moves on? Is when they take their last breath. So even though we are sitting here breathing all day in and out, there's pretty much never a moment that we're not breathing, but it's an unconscious breath. We are breathing all the time. We are unconsciously breathing all the time. So our breath is very, very important, because without our breath, there would not be life. There would not be life. And there's so much power in this tool of our breath. By us consciously taking those 3 cleansing breaths at the top of this podcast, it instantly gave like a chill pill. Like I literally feel like I just took a chill pill. So if you ever need to take a chill pill, you don't have to actually look for an actual pill. You could go ahead and just say, you know what, let me just settle down for just one quick moment and take 3 cleansing breaths. That's right. Now, breathing exercises are not just great for taking that chill pill. There are so many other beautiful and amazing effects behind breathing. And on top of that, with doing breathing exercises, you're building up your lungs. You're making it stronger. So there's just so many endless benefits to actually using your breath and taking advantage of it. It's like we have this beautiful body of ours. We really have this beautiful body of ours. And if we decide to use our tools of this body in different ways, there's so many different ways you can use the tools of your body. Then you increase and elevate that tool. So if we sit on the couch all day and just like don't use the tool of our body, we're eating popcorn and potato chips and watching TV, our body will just become stagnant and just doing nothing. And then if we say, you know what, I'm going to take up running and I'm going to go out and run 2 to 3 miles every day. Guess what? Our legs become stronger. We start building up stamina and strength and so much more. And that's just in running. No matter what, area we decide to work with, even if we're artists and we're working with our hands all day, we start to build the strength in our hands. So, but we don't have to do those things. And if we don't do those things, our hands will still work. Will they work to, an optimum level? Maybe not. But if we start to put focus in it, then it's going to start to elevate that area of our body or whatever area we're working in and just build strength in it. And the same thing with our breath. We start to work in that area. We're building and expanding our lungs. We're understanding how to use our breath with control. And, and I'm a yogi. And when I first started taking yoga, if you take a yoga class, you will hear the instructor. You will most likely hear your instructor say, breathe, take it to the breath, breathe through this. The breath is constantly spoken about during a yoga class. And so I would hear the yoga teacher say it, but I guess I didn't quite understand what they were talking about. Breathe, breathe. So at the beginning, when they would say breathe, I would be like, I would do like that. And so then, one day a yoga teacher had to tap me on the shoulder. It was like breathing through your nose, exhale through your nose, breathing through your nose, exhale through your nose. And that is actually called the Ujjayi breath. So that's a different breath than the breath I started off this podcast with, which was like a cleansing breath. We were inhaling through our nose and exhaling, the energy through our mouth. And that was just like a cleansing breath. But the Ujjayi breath is a different breath. And it's a breath that takes us, through our yoga class. And so what I noticed, so then once I started to use the Ujjayi breath, in yoga class, which is just basically breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your nose, and we're keeping our mouth shut. I was able to, it's a conscious breath, because now I'm consciously telling my mind to breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the nose. When we're breathing every day, just like as I'm speaking to you, I'm breathing, but it's an unconscious breath. But when we put energy and focus into the breath, breathe in through the nose, exhale through the nose, breathe in through the nose, exhale. Now I'm consciously thinking about that. And so when I'm in yoga class, consciously thinking about this breath, it's allowing my mind to not concentrate on the pain that I may be in the pose. Well, I'm not calling it pain, but sometimes you're in a yoga pose, and actually, if your yoga teacher goes slow in the class, that yoga class is going to be more challenging. So with yoga, it's a lot of, not stillness, but you're holding poses. You're not just like jumping, give me 10 jumping jacks, and you're just moving quick in and out of in and out of exercises, that's different. That's like building the heart rate up. It's the cardio. But in yoga, you need to be in your stillness and be okay with that stillness. So when you're holding a pose in yoga and the teacher's not telling you to go into the next pose, it's like, okay, can you please, let's change positions, because this is starting to become really hard. It's starting to become hard. So instead of you saying, oh my God, well, she just changed the pose. Like, why are we standing here for so long? My arms are hurting now. Even though I'm not carrying anything, my arms are hurting. My arms are hurting because I'm holding them in this position in stillness. This hurts. This is painful. And you can also think about that with life as well too. Sometimes when we just have to sit in our stillness, it's triggering. It's could be painful just to be still. So just being still in this position, starts to become painful, or starts to become bothersome. So to take you through these poses and not to focus on could she please change this pose? You bring it to the breath. Bring it to the breath. Bring it to the breath. Use your breath. So in yoga class, we have a lot of times you have to, breathe through the poses, and, to bring the energy to the breath instead of bringing that energy into oh my God, my arms are about to fall off. with labor and delivery, when a woman is giving birth, what do they tell the woman to do? To breathe through it, I, so wish, but I can't go back to the past, that I was aware of all of this information when I did go through labor and delivery almost 22 years ago. To understand the value of the breath and understanding how to use my breath to help me work through the pain and so on, and just get relaxed within my body. But I had no knowledge of that at that time. But now I do have the knowledge, and I'm grateful that I am able to be in this place of the knowledge of how powerful the breath is if we, when we start to work with it. So yes, just like our body, we have this tool, it's here. But just imagine when we put energy into any area, just like these athletes out here, they are out here working on their skills in whatever area of the body they need to work with. And they start to become a master in it. Not because they woke up and they was a master at this. They woke up and went and worked on that area, just as I say in my book. So today's episode, I just started this podcast off with like rambling on. But today's episode is about the breath, from my book, Your Guide to Bringing More Acts of Self-Care. Yes, I have a chapter. Chapter 5 is on the breath, breathing. And I talk about that, your breath is important and to put focus on it. And for 7 days, I ask that you work on doing some breathing exercises. And and I ask you to download apps. In this day and age, I believe most of us have smartphones. And if you have smartphones, they have apps. And, there are different breathing apps. There's not just one, there's different ones. And like I always speak about on this podcast, see what works for you. So I don't want to necessarily suggest an app for you. Say, go download this app and this is the app you're going to use. I would like for you to download multiple apps to figure out which one is going to work best for you. What do you resonate with, and so on. That I will definitely tell you the app that I use, that I particularly like. And if you choose to download that, you download that, or you can download that along with other ones as well too. And depending on what area, because there are some apps that may give you more different breathing techniques, and there may be an app like my app that I use is just basically the same technique that I'm doing every day, and so on. But again, it's up to you to figure out, what works for you. So, yeah. Today's episode is about the breath, but we're going to take a pause to talk about today's tea. So today's Becoming Unique tea is called I Am Open for Change. And this is the tea right here. I hope it comes out on the screen, but it's such a beautiful dark blue. It's like really a dark, dark blue. And the reason why this tea is called I Am Open for Change, because this tea has the power to change. So this tea is a dark blue in the camera like I just showed you. But if you add an acid like lemon, it will turn to this beautiful purple color. And then if you add some milk to the tea, it's going to turn to this gorgeous baby blue color. And this tea I also feels like you can truly change the flavor depending on what you add to the tea. So if you just drink the tea plain, to me, plain with nothing in it, it tastes like the earth. Like I'm drinking a cup of earth. But when you start to add layers to the tea, you start to change the taste of it. And I've tasted this tea in quite a few different, cafes or restaurants or whatever throughout the past year and a half. And every time I taste this tea, it tastes completely different. I haven't tasted, this tea, like everyone makes this tea differently. I can say when you buy this tea out in the public in a cafe somewhere, they are definitely going to be loading that tea up with a lot of sugar and a lot of syrups or whatever stuff they be adding into it. So you could be like, oh my God, this is the most delicious tea ever. I can definitely say that a lot of them, I'm like, wow, this takes almost nothing like the organic version of what this tea started as. So like I said at the beginning, this tea, honestly, if you drink it with absolutely nothing in it, it just gives you, oh, wow, I'm drinking a cup of earth. But you go to a cafe and it's like, woo, sugar rush. This is good. This is bomb, because they're adding syrups and stuff, which is great. You get this beautiful cup of tea and you have all of these amazing flavors bursting through your mouth. But, if you get this tea at home, you also have the option to, work with how you want the flavor to taste. One of the ways that I like to uplift the flavor in this tea is by adding cinnamon. Cinnamon is a great option to add to the to this tea. You can also add lemon to the tea. It's really good with lemon, cinnamon, a sweetener like honey. And also, depending on what sweetener if you decide to use a sweetener, what sweetener you use, all of the sweeteners could give it a different effect. So this is why I call this tea, is that I am open for change, because this tea has the power to change. And I decided to use this tea with today's episode because I honestly feel, as human beings, we have the opportunity to change. Just like I said, we have this breath of ours that we use, and we do have the opportunity to strengthen our breath and utilize it, by understanding that we have this power. And just like in our body, we can change, different parts of our body by just putting it to work and utilizing it. Just like if you want to gain muscle, you start to do strength exercises. If you want to shed some weight, you may want to do cardio exercising. And you want to gain stamina, you may want to do running. So different parts, like, we can change these parts of ourselves. Like, someone could take their first run and be so out of breath, feel like their chest is burning, they can't do it, their legs are hurting, their calves are hurting. All of these elements can happen on their first run, and they're like, running is not for me. I can't do this. I almost died, and be so dramatic. But just realizing, yes, it may be challenging on your first time you try anything, but just realize, if you keep showing up every day, you're going to start to build that muscle, the stamina, and so much more. But the first step you have to be is open for change. Things will change when you are open for change. So just like this tea, you could drink it the first time and be like, oh my God, no way. This tastes like the earth. I'm never drinking this tea again. But if you be patient and say, you know what? Let me throw some cinnamon in here. Let me throw some honey. Let me throw some lemon. And you start working with the tea and realize and be like, wow, I was able to change this tea, by just putting that energy into changing it, instead of saying, nope, it's a done deal. And the same thing with your body, or anything within yourself, your mind, your body, your job, anything in life. Just be open for change. We don't have to be stagnant in that position and say, you know what? I ran one time and it was the pits. No, be open to say, you know what? It's challenging, but I'm going to show up. I am going to show up for it. Okay? So, definitely be open for change. So, all of these episodes in this season are pretty brief. They're within the 20-minute span, frame. And I definitely think I did I got my point across about, talking about the value of the breath, that we do have this muscle of the breath, and that, to put the energy into it and just start to focus on it. And if you have my book, Your Guide to Bringing More Acts of Self-Care, you will definitely go through 7 days of, of the focus around the breath. Definitely have 7 days of, in this book. And these episodes are here to support you with the book. And if you're not, if you don't have the book, it's fine, because these episodes are here to support you within life. All of us that are watching this are breathing. So let's, take it in that we do have the power to work on our breath and to build that muscle within our lungs, and to understand that we have the power of, taking a chill pill. So I do have a previous podcast episode to support you in the breathing chapter of this book. Or even if you don't have the book, you can check this episode out, because it's such an excellent episode. And this episode is called Digging into the Fourth Limb of Yoga, Pranayama. And Pranayama in yoga is your breath. And actually, just to kind of rewind a little bit, when I first started this podcast, maybe like 106 episodes ago. So there's a lot of episodes. My first episode was talking about the 8 limbs of yoga, So I did the first limb, the second limb, the third limb. And a lot of people think of yoga as the asana. The asana is the movement of yoga, and that's only one limb of the 8 limbs. Yoga is just so much deeper than moving your body. So when someone says they practice yoga, it doesn't, in this Western culture, we just think of it as moving the body. But someone could be working on their breath every day and say, I'm practicing yoga. So this week, if you are doing, intentionally putting focus in your pranayama, which is your breath, you're practicing yoga, and you could be like, I practice yoga. And it's true, because yoga is just not the movement of your body. It is just one of the limbs. So actually, if you want to go back to the beginning of the Becoming Unique podcast, because I opened up the first episode with the first limb of yoga, and you will start to understand the principles and the mindset around the practice of yoga. So, but we're not getting into that. I'm not going to get into that, but I just want to put that out there, that that content is available on the podcast as well, to all the way towards the beginning episodes. But back to the breath. The episode I did on pranayama was with another guest, and it's such an amazing episode. And in the episode, we talk about the ujjayi breath, which I talked about earlier in this episode, understanding the power of breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your nose. And actually, she really explains the pranayama breath a little deeper than I did. I kind of just really simplified it very quickly, but there is kind of like more details with like a little bit constricting your throat and stuff like that. But listen to that episode to like get the full details around the pranayama breath, and just pranayama, not the pranayama, the ujjayi breath, but understanding pranayama in its whole and how important it is. And yeah, let's just as we go to the gym to work on our body and move our body, let's realize that we also have the power to just take a few minutes every day to work on our breath and building our lungs up and so much more. So yeah, so I think I pretty much covered it. So we talked about the breath. We talked about the supporting episode. We talked about this week's tea, which is I am open for change. Yes. And if you don't have your copy of Your Guide to Bringing More Acts of Self-Care, make sure you get your copy. Available on Amazon, available on BarnesandNobles.com, Walmart.com, any of your local bookstores. They have the access to place an order for the book. So, the book is very, very available. So make sure you get your hands on it. And if you haven't seen the other supportive episodes for this book, make sure you go back. There's an episode on affirmations, on journaling, on meditation, on movement. And now we have the breathing episode. All of these beautiful tools to support you in self-care. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys have a beautiful and amazing week. I will see you next week with another chapter of Your Guide to Bringing More Acts of Self-Care. Bye.